WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Banjul, 1 p.m. in Abuja and Porto Novo. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Former Executive Secretary of the Gambia's Truth and Reconciliation Corporation, TRC, warns against actionable capable of destabilizing the country.
The Public Order Act is a bad law. It has no place in our law books at this point in time. The law was used by a dictator to suppress dissent and to oppress his critics, including President Adama Barrow, at the time a member of the UDP. I think that the Public Order Act should be removed from our law books.
The Malian transitional government holds payment of salaries to more than 36,000 civil servants. Ghana dropped 6 places in the latest Global Peace Index ranking, generating concerns.
If you look at the indicators they've always used for some of these assessments, it is clear that there are not hotspots in our country where fighting is going on almost every time and sophisticated weapons are being used.
And Liberia's President Boakai dismisses top drug enforcement officials. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
My name is Sankule Janko. Thank you for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in the Gambia, where Akam has returned to the capital after days of standoff between the police and protesters objecting the sudden increase in data subscription fees. Between last Friday and Monday this week, several demonstrators, including members of the youth movement Gambians Against Looted Assets Gala, were arrested. However, widespread denouncement has led to their release by the police, while the charges against them remain. Similarly, former Executive Secretary of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRC, Baba Gale Jallo, a prominent figure in Gambian society, has written an open letter to President Adama Barrow, urging him to stop the crackdown on peaceful protesters, warning that repression heightens national instability. Christopher Atichu tells us more in this report.
In a span of 4 days, more than 40 young Gambians were arrested by the police when they turned up to protest the data cost increment by the Public Utility Regulatory Agency, PURA. Umar Seibu Kamara, spokesperson for the Gambians Against Looted Assets Gala, shared with WADR that the protesters were subsequently released on Tuesday and Wednesday respectively after posting a $50,000 bond and a surety each. The protesters have not been told they have no further obligations and the charges continue to stand. Meanwhile, former Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission Executive Secretary Baba Jallo, in an open letter to President Adama Barrow, urged the president to cease the violent suppression of protesters, warning such repression could destabilize the country.
The Public Order Act is a bad law. It has no place in our law books at this point in time. The law was used by a dictator to suppress dissent and to oppress his critics, including President Adama Barrow, at the time a member of the UDP. I think that the Public Order Act should be removed from our law books, as well as other bad laws in the law books, so that we can move forward as a genuine and growing democracy.
Jallo asked the president to give immediate directives to the police and the judiciary to drop all charges against the protesters.
If that is done, the youths will feel respected. The president has already taken a step to form a committee to look into this tariff issue, and that is a very commendable move. I think it's a good thing that he has done that. But right now, the protesters have been granted bail, but they are not free. So the president should step in and just say, well, drop the charges, let these people go. Let's look forward to more engagement in the future.
The Gambia, gradually rebuilding from an authoritarian regime of former President Yahya Jammeh, is faced with growing concerns from citizens. These range from corruption, especially by state officials, to lack of accountability and abuse of power, among others.
Christopher Atichu filed that report. On Wednesday, the governments of Senegal and France reached an agreement to renew their cooperation based on win-win partnership. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron agreed to explore several sectors of the Senegalese society in this crucial moment. Health, IT, road infrastructure, security and defense cooperation were among the highlights highlighted interest. Dakar engaged Paris on these issues as it struggles domestically to keep its economy afloat. Threatened by armed groups' violence on its shared border with the Sahel, security was also on the agenda. Well, Ibrahim Khan, an AU governance expert, tells WDR about the significance of the agreement between President Diomaye Faye and Emmanuel Macron.
The relationship between Senegal and France is a long relationship. More than 3 centuries, Senegal has always collaborated hand in hand with France. And that collaboration is still visible in the country because France remains one of the first Western countries that invest in Senegal. 2, Senegal is in a particular difficult situation at the moment because the public debt that Senegal owed to many institutions in the world have reached the level of 120% of our GDP. It's impossible for a country like Senegal at the moment to continue to think about developing its economy with that kind of debt. So Senegal needs support from those who can influence international organizations like the IMF, the World Bank, the European Union, and other institutions that have given Senegal, where Senegal has borrowed money, to really facilitate the payment. The third element, I think, there are many sectors that this new government wants to develop. The railway, for instance, the technology.
Ibrahim Khan, an AU governance expert. Well, still in Senegal, the Ministry of Family and Solidarity has introduced new measures to speed up the compensation for victims of the 2024 pre-election crisis, with particular focus on bereaved families. In a statement, the Sector Minister Maimouna J announced that families of deceased victims will now receive an immediate payment of 10 million CFA francs even before securing an inheritance judgment. According to the ministry, the simplified procedure follows recommendations from the Interministry Committee handling the matter. Beneficiaries will need to present proof of filing for the judgment along with an ID, death and cause of death certificate, a report signed by family members and a power of attorney naming 3 representatives. The ministry added that with these advances, it expects to finalize all assistance files for ex-detainees by the end of September 2025. Meanwhile, more than 100 days after Togo commenced the Fifth Republic with a new constitution, the country still lacks a government. Anxiety is growing among opposition political parties and the general public. The Alliance of Democratic for Integral Development political party has expressed its concern and is urging the authorities to provide Togo with a government as soon as possible. Abdullah Hassan has more in the following report.
Following the resignation of the previous government in May 2025, the Togolese people in the Fifth Republic are still waiting for a new administration. The opposition party, the Alliance of Democrats for Integral Development, ADI, expresses concern. Benjamin Amozovi is Secretary General of ADI.
The outgoing government is managing day-to-day affairs. This means it can't make certain strategic decisions to move the country forward. This could have a real impact on economic recovery and also slow down investment in the country. And for us, it's not a good thing to wait indefinitely for the formation of a new government, especially since we are entering the realm of your regimes, and since then, regime hasn't been accompanied by the government. It's worrying.
And for the Socialist Pact for Renewal, PSR, the situation needs to be put into perspective. For the party, the country's functioning has not been interrupted despite the delay in the formation of a new government. Donation Awoso is a member of the PSR party.
But I wouldn't say that the presidency isn't moving forward. All this time, decisions have been made, meetings between ministers, and everything else has been happening. So I don't see the urgency for us to shout about where the government is falling behind. The time had come for the people to show their participation in the political sphere, that is, the republic. But well, they said to themselves, themselves would prefer inaction to indifference. And now they are still shouting, where is the government? Do you see the dichotomy?
Où est le gouvernement? Vous voyez un peu la dichotomie?
And in the face of criticism, the Minister of Civil Service, Gilbert Bawara, sought to reassure that the formation of the new government is not a matter of haste, but of rigor and responsibility. He emphasized in an interview with a local media outlet that President of the Council of Ministers, Foya Singbe, wants to take the necessary time to build a team that is, and I quote, solid, cohesive and capable of effectively responding to the country's challenges. For now, political actors and the population are awaiting concrete answers to the situation.
Sylvie Wadrago's report from Lomé and voiced by Abdullahi Hassan.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Mali, more than 36,000 civil servants not enrolled in the country's integrated human resources management system will have their salaries temporarily suspended starting next September. According to the authorities, this measure aims to verify the real existence of government employees and combat fictitious civil servants. Every year, Mali loses more than 48 billion CFA or 4.57% of its payroll. Imo Edet completes the story.
According to the report of the Integrated Human Resources Management System, 122,000 out of more than 158,000 government employees were identified through physical and biometric checks. However, more than 36,000 other civil servants did not show up. Their annual salary is estimated at more than 48 billion CFA francs. The government has temporarily decided to stop paying salaries to these absentee civil servants. Payment may resume if they regularize their situation or if investigations reveal they are not fictitious workers. The Malian authorities say this operation is part of a reform aimed at cleaning up the civil service and optimizing government resources.
That is Imo Eded report filed by our Bamako correspondent Aliu Cham. Now let's head to Ghana because the authorities has dropped 6 places. The country has dropped 6 places in the 2025 Global Peace Index, ranking 61st globally and falling short outside the top 5 most peaceful countries in sub-Saharan Africa. This development raises concerns among citizens and experts from the security community. In their opinion, the findings should serve as a wake-up call for policymakers to protect the country against any form of threat. From Accra, Nadi Ditete reports.
The 2025 Global Peace Index, released by the Institute for Economics and Peace, shows Ghana outside the region's top 5 for the first time in years. It now trails Mauritius, Botswana, Namibia, the Gambia, Sierra Leone, and Madagascar. Globally, Iceland remains the most peaceful nation, with Ireland, New Zealand, Austria, and Switzerland completing the top 5. Security analyst Richard Gumado says Ghana's decline should not come as a shock.
If you look at the indicators they've always used for some of these assessments, it is clear that there are known hotspots in our country where fighting is going on almost every time, and sophisticated weapons are being used. There has been a number of killings. Crime has gone up a little bit. We have not been able to resolve many of these crimes, and no prosecutions are achieved in that regard, and convictions have not been addressed properly. So anybody looking on, or international communities who are observing within our safety and security environment, they can attest to the fact that we've drifted off a little bit.
The report did not give exact reasons for Ghana's fall, but noted that half of sub-Saharan countries recorded deteriorations. Overall, global peacefulness has now declined for 6 straight years. Richard Gumado believes Ghana's authorities must act on the findings.
Security management is a continuous process, and I believe those making decisions for us, those in charge of political governance and security governance, are monitoring some of this report, and they will work very hard to bring back Ghana to where it's supposed to be, or where we have been previously, so we can maintain the status quo.
The Global Peace Index assessed 163 countries, covering nearly the entire world's population. For WADR, Nadi Ditete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Former Executive Secretary of the Gambia's TRRC warns against actions capable of destabilizing the country. The Malian transitional government holds payment of salaries to more than 36,000 civil servants. Ghana dropped 6 places in the latest Global Peace Index ranking, generating concerns. Still ahead in the news, Liberia's President Boakai dismisses top drug enforcement officials. We have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Nigeria, at least 5 women were killed in Niger State after an illegal mining site carved in. The incident has once again raised concerns about unregulated mining activities in the north-central state in particular and across the country. WDR's Usman Omar in Abuja reports.
The tragedy occurred Monday evening in Mbudu village, Paikoro local government area of Niger State, when an illegal mining pit collapsed. Local sources say the victims, including a pregnant woman, were residents of Budu and the nearby Pambi village. They have been identified as Tani Abubakar, Farida Mustafa, Farida Sule, Khadija Abdullahi, and Zainab Usman. Security operatives and emergency responders got to the scene on Tuesday afternoon due to difficulty in accessing the area, but the women were confirmed dead upon arrival at the General Hospital in Paiko. Garba Yahaya is the Commissioner for Mineral Resources, Niger State.
Niger State is one of the states that have these mandatory activities. And as a result of that, the governor decided to suspend the mining in the state. And we call on all the stakeholders. We had a meeting with them, the man and man workers unions. We advise them, please, they should please respect the order, because we are doing it for the safety of everybody in the state. So right now we are profiling the mining company in the state.
The Niger State Authority has since launched an investigation into the disaster while warning communities of the dangers of illegal mining activities, which often result in fatalities. In 2024 alone, Niger State recorded at least 19 deaths in multiple pit collapses, including 14 in Shiroro local government area and another 25 deaths in a dynamite explosion in Mashegu this January. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
President Joseph Boakai has issued a clarion call to Liberians residing in the diaspora to actively participate in the nation-building process through strategic economic investment during a formal meeting held at the Executive Mansion with U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock. President Boakai said Liberia is fertile and open for investments that will contribute to national advancement. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
During the meeting, President Joseph Boakai underscored the historical link between Liberia and the United States, highlighting the areas of investment in the country. He acknowledged the sustained support Liberia has received from both American entities and Liberians residing in the U.S.
We've had a lot of interest already been generated. We want to encourage. There's a lot that can be done here, and that's why we're going to the state to officially launch the diaspora. All of the resources outside that are with our brothers and sisters, especially in the United States, makes use of it here.
In response, the visiting Congressman Raphael Warnock reaffirmed the unwavering commitment of both the U.S. Senate Black Caucus and his affiliated church to Liberia.
I look forward to engaging you in my role as a member of the United States Senate in all the ways that we can be helpful there. We have a record number of black senators in the United States Senate, a whopping 4. We look forward to engaging you there.
Liberia is witnessing an upswing in diplomatic engagement as Senator Raphael Warnock's dedication arrives, marking the second U.S. congressional visit within the week. For observers, these efforts signal the strengthening of Liberia-U.S. relations following the America and 5 African Nations Summit in July. They however, urged transparency in all the engagements signed between the U.S. and Liberia during that summit and an earlier railway deal signed on July 9th with an American company, Ivanhoe Atlantic. The $1.8 billion deal would enable the construction of a Mika rail network for the transportation of iron ore from Guinea. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, before the newspaper review, let's have breaking news from Liberia because President Joseph Boakai has dismissed the Director General and two Deputy Directors General of Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency, LDEA, effective immediately. The dismissals announced early this morning in a statement from the executive mansion are for administrative reasons. The officials dismissed include Anthony South, Director General, Gue Pogba, Deputy Director General for Administration, and Sebastian Farr, Deputy Director General for Operations. The statement also added that an interim management team has been appointed to lead the Drug Enforcement Agency, while a new management team will be selected soon. The interim team will report directly to the Minister of Justice, who will update the President on agency's operations. Now, let's get to our guest segment because the International Monetary Fund has reported to the General. But in the meantime, we will have the press review coming shortly.
Greetings, welcome to the newspaper review segment. We'll start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper, the front page. I will not contest 2028 election. My focus is on fiscal discipline, President Mahama declares. Other stories here, SHS placement out on September 17th as according to the Education Ministry, and NPP flag bearer race. Kennedy Japong and Brian Champong submit nomination forms. The Ghanaian Times newspaper front page, same story. I won't seek third term, President Mahama affirms, and Kennedy Japong calls for de-escalation of tension in party. And I come to unite, build and lead, Dr. Brian Champon says, and Ghana secures EU market access for legally sourced timber from October. The Daily Guide newspaper, Gold Board woos licensed miners with 832 Ghana cedis bonus, and Mahama rules out third term. Brian Champon files and declares bold vision, and BOG bans dollar pricing for services. Finally, Akwitia by-election, NPP unhappy with security. The Chronicle newspaper front page, Baumia will win if primary were held today, says Fred Oware, and Gold Board introduces bonanza for licensed miners. The Overseer front page, 10 million youth to join labor force by 2040. Finance Ministry calls for bold fiscal reforms, and NPP will win 2028 under my leadership, Dr. Brian Champon declares. The Daily Democrat is a final paper I have here. You can't trade in dollars, BOG wants. Education Ministry assures transparency in BEC placement, and Ofuswampo for calls for partnership in ICT growth. Other stories here, Dr. Kevo champions Ghana as digital trade hub, and NPA trains tanker drivers on downstream compliance. And finally, Gold Board rewards licensed miners. And that's it for the newspaper review segment. It's back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Amina Didi Tete, for that press review there.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Now, in our guest interview segment, we head to the Gambia, where the former Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission TRC Executive Secretary Babagalo Jallow has written an open letter to President Barrow, urging him to stop the crackdown on peaceful protesters, warning that repression heightens national instability. Jallow called on the president to show leadership by urging the police and the judiciary to drop all charges against the protesters who were granted bail. Our guest is the author of the letter, Babagalo Jallow, and he shares with WADR the rationale for the letter and its future of democracy in the Gambia.
Well, you know, the Public Order Act is a colonial law. It was passed in the Gambia and in other West African British colonies in the colonial period. The Gambian law was passed in 1961 and then amended in 1963, just as the country was going towards independence. Now, rather than repeal the law and remove it from the books, the law survived the Jawara era and survived the Jammeh era. and it's still in the book. So it's a bad law because what it does is not to promote democracy. It tries to stifle dissent. It tries to prevent genuine and peaceful protest. And that was the same reason that the law was passed by the colonial authorities. So obviously a colonial law in post-colonial Africa is a bad law. And I must say it's not unique to Gambia. Australia, Nigeria, Ghana still have these bad laws in their books. The colonial era public order acts that were enacted to control and restrict the freedoms of Africans are still being used in a post-colonial independent era to control and restrict the freedoms of an independent people.
Mr. Jallo, in your letter, you've warned that suppressing peaceful protests can lead to instability. What lessons do you believe President Barrow should learn from the past leaders in the Gambia, for example, President Jammeh?
Well, the TRRC hearings were testimony that repression never pays. The story of Jammeh, like I indicated in the open letter, is ample testimony that it doesn't pay for a government to be repressive. It doesn't pay to arrest peaceful protesters or to suppress dissent in an emerging democracy. I think that is the main lesson that I want the president to take away. One, that it doesn't pay to do that, to arrest peaceful protesters. Two, suppression or repression of dissent and peaceful expressions of dissatisfaction with any aspect of a society is not the right way to go. I think that the Gambia's democracy at this point should be mature enough able to engage peaceful protesters in a very orderly and intelligent fashion and to diffuse and manage a potential crisis. But if you send the police, if he sends police, or if the police decide to go because the law is still in the books and go and arrest peaceful protesters, what it does is not to manage a crisis. It actually escalates the crisis and could potentially lead to more crises.
Mr. Jallo, you've called on President Barrow to personally intervene. And we've seen latest development is that the original protesters have been granted bail and the other protesters as well. All the protesters have now been granted bail. But what concrete steps do you expect the president to take immediately to diffuse the current crisis that is happening?
A good step that the president can take is simply to call the police or the judiciary and say, drop the charges, let's forget about this case and move on as a nation. I think that would be the most sensible thing, the most intelligent thing to do. But if that is done, the youths will feel respected. The president has already taken a step to form a committee to look into this tariff issue, and that is a very commendable move. I think it's a good thing that he has done that. But right now, the youths, the protesters have been granted bail, but they are not free. So the president should step in and just say, well, drop the charges, let these people go.
That was former Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations TRRC Executive Secretary Baba Gale Jallo. Well, quickly in sports, we have Christopher Atichu in the studio. Quickly, Christopher, what are the latest sports happening in the world of sport?
Well, yes. So, Sankule, as you rightly said, this Saturday, all eyes are heading towards the Chan finals, as indeed FIFA president will be there, CAF president, and all other 54 African Football Association heads will also be in the final. At the finals. Good. To witness African football and then celebrate talent as well.
Right. I mean, quickly also, Senegal have released a squad for their World Cup qualifiers.
Yes, they've released their squad against Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And then Sudan is actually, Senegal is hoping to at least pick a win against these two countries to be able to represent the country at the World Cup stage as well. And then Ghana is also preparing massively against two games in this particular FIFA World Cup qualifiers as well.
Yes, I mean, in 2 seconds, I mean, I know you're happy. I mean, Brian Bono, the Cameroon International, lost a penalty kick for Man United, and it's all over the place. United are humiliated by a 4th division side.
You are asking a Chelsea man about Manchester United.
Christopher Atichu with sports. Well, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Ismaila Kamara for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X and Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service, and stream live at WADR.org. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WDR flagship environment program, Enviroscope with Abdullah Hassan. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your